So this is a talk I gave in Java 1 and then I gave it a few times. Actually, come and play with Java 7. Play, I wrote it with the upper letter P and with the exclamation mark. And when I gave this title at Java 1, the guys from Oracle were not really happy. They said, I think we might have some trademark problems here. And they went and checked the lawyers and sent me an email back and they said, and I went, hey, you know, I can change the title. So I went back to the application of Java 1 and I couldn't change the title. The text field, you can update the talk, the content of the talk, but not the title. You know, the text field was in read-only mode. So the lawyers came back and I was like, God, you know, damn, why is it so damn complicated? And then Java 1 came and the title stayed like that. So come and play with Java 7. This is me again. Okay, some facts about Java EE. We all know that Java EE is boring. It's bloody slow. Enterprise beans, you know, not great. And everybody knows that Play framework is cool. And fast, bloody fast. Can we change this, you know? No, we cannot. Really, we cannot. Why? Because, first of all, you know, Java EE looks a little bit like that. It's still a little bit like that, and it will stay like that. So, Java EE, it's a bunch of specifications. I told you, Java EE 7 is 32 specs. I counted the pages. It's 8,000 pages. So if you want to know everything about Java EE 7, you need to read 8,000 pages. I haven't done it. No common doc. You know, if you want to learn Spring, go to spring.org. You know, everything is there. If you want to learn Java EE, go to, well, there's a bit in Oracle, there's a bit on Red Hat, there's a bit in IBM, there's a bit everywhere. There's not a single website, there's not even a bloody logo, you know? It's weird, isn't it? Lawyers problem. You know, the same lawyers who pissed me off with my title. If you want to do a single logo for Java EE, if you want to have a single website, a single doc, where do you do that? Java EE is 70% Oracle, 20% Red Hat, 10% IBM. Do you think Oracle is going to draw a logo and IBM is going to say, yes, it's great? Or do you think that IBM is going to write a bunch of articles and put it in GitHub, where it's going to be hosted in the cloud? Which cloud? Oracle cloud, of course. So there's a lot of problems. Things that are really simple can be very complex in a democracy. Much easier in a dictatorship. So it won't change. It will not change. Java EE is complex. The startup cost is still big. You know, I don't know about you guys, but when I go to a team and new members come, what is Java EE? You know, where do you start explaining what it is? How do you start a project? You know, as most of my time is spending, you know, most of my job is writing POM XMLs. You know, how do I bloody start this thing? Integration. Java EE is a democracy. You know, I come from a country where we chop head of kings. You know, we've been doing that for centuries. Democracy is cool. But you have the JPA spec lead who does his own thing, and the JSF spec lead who does his own thing, and the JUG Service spec lead who does his own thing. How do you integrate that? Well, the Java EE expert group, we can chop heads, can't we? No, we can't. it's really frustrating when you are in the Java EE expert group, because you want members to talk to each other and integrate the specification more, and it just doesn't happen. You know, I am the spec lead of JPA 2.1, and I can't integrate with all the other guys. So the integration with Java EE is good, but it could be much better. So integrating the specs is difficult. When you have a JPA entity and you want to have a web pages that shows it, and a REST service and a batch, just annotations everywhere. Some are incompatible and you don't know why. Some work well and you still don't know why. So there's some problems like that. But we can get some help. Really, Java EE will become bigger and bigger and bigger. We will add more and more specs. It will also get simpler and simpler and simpler. But the complexity brings integration problems. But yeah, we can get some help. And it will be from tooling. So either you have a fantastic tool that costs you a fortune and you go drag drop, you create your entity classes and your facade and etc. and you go bang and it's bang and you have a fantastic website with an ESB in the middle, and you change the code and changes your UML diagram, and it's fantastic. And we all know it doesn't work. Or you go for much simpler tools, and one tool I'm mostly going to use today is Forge, JBoss Forge. JBoss Forge is a scaffolding tool. It's going to generate code for us. Nothing magic. It's a one-shot generation tool. It doesn't do reverse engineering or fancy stuff. It's pretty straightforward. Here is the code. There's no jar in your class path. There's no magic. There's no AOP like Spring Rule. It's nothing fancy like that. It's pretty basic. We need. It's a shame that a tool like that didn't exist 10 years ago. It's shell commands, so it's an environment that we are familiar with. And it's just going to create CRUD application. You cannot create Twitter or Facebook with that. It's just to create our day-to-day boring CRUD application. And you can start quickly, and it will work, because Forge is gonna take care of the integration of all these specifications. It will make it work. And the good thing with Forge is, from its beginning, from its roots, it's plugin based. Of course, it generates Java EE code, but now there's plugins for Angular, JS. I saw a guy creating plugins for Spring. I don't know where he's gone on with that. So there's plenty of plugins. There's a plugin for Maven. I'm going to use it. There's a plugin for Gradle. It's plugin based, so its roots is from Java EE, but now it's spreading. So I'm going to write an application in half an hour. It's going to be a very basic application, but with a bunch of technologies. There's a database, of course. We all need to store our data in a database, so I'm going to use JPA. There's a REST interface, so I'm going to be able to do HTTP calls on my entities. I need a fantastic UI that looks good. I'm going to use a bit of CDI and big validation and interceptors and stuff like that. Because I want something sexy, I'm going to add a bit of HTML5, a Twitter widget, because if you do Twitter in 2014, well, you're a loser. The good thing with JSF is you have components, so I'm going to use a bunch of those, so it makes the application a bit nicer. And in terms of tooling, I use my preferred IDE, but use the IDE you want. In the middle of the demo, I'm going to start using JRebel, because the problem with Java EE and even Spring, with the Java web application is we have Java code, we compile it, we package it in a WAR, we deploy it either in GlassFish or Jetty or Tomcat is the same thing. And if there's a problem, well, we debug and we compile and we deploy, you know, and we do that again and again. JRebel does hot deployment, so in the middle of the demo, I'll start using that so I can, you know, develop much quicker. And I'm going to use GlassFish because this is the GlassFish user group. But at the very end, I will show you that my code is portable and it runs on Wildfly easily. It's going to be a very basic web app. I've created in Java 1, so the idea was to see what was out there in the Java EE7 world. So in this CRUD application, I'm going to be able to do CRUD operation on Java EE7 books, Java EE7 talks at Java 1, and speakers about Java EE7. So nothing fancy, just a CRUD application with a fantastic Twitter widget. This is a CRUD app, so you know I can enter some data, search for books, I can edit, delete, you know, all kinds of things. So I'm going to try to create that in half an hour. Forge is shell based, you know. So here I am, and I type Forge. What is Forge? Is a zip file. You download it from the web, you unzip it, add it to your path, and that's it. And it goes JBoss Forge 1.43. The 2.0 will be out next week, I think. So, well, you know, until now the final is 1.3. I'm going to take my finger and press tab, and JBoss Forge is giving me a bunch of commands. So I can do echo, I can do a more. So if I have a file, I can do more. I can do a cd, ls, grep, you know, mv, mkd, pwd. You know, it's like a shell. If I type list, and again I take my finger and press tab, it does completion for me. So when I'm lost, I can just hit tab, and it's telling me, well, there's all these commands that start with list. And actually I want commands, so I can type co, press tab again, and it's going to help me. Oh, come, puff. Code completion. So, you know, things that we are used to as developers. And if I press tab again, it gives me all the attributes I can add. Here there's only one, all. So if I type list commands all, it gives me all the commands of JBoss Forge. So I'm going up here a little bit quickly for you to see. There's all the files and resource commands, as I said, grep, ls, mkd, pwr. And here I have plenty of Java EE commands. Beans, I can create a new bean, that's a CDI bean. I can add a constraint, that's bean validation. So I can add a constraint not null on something. EJBs, I can create a new EJB. I can create a new entity field. I can create a many-to-one, one-to-many. There's a Git plugin. So from Forge, I can do git clone, git ignore, or whatever. I can internationalize. That's going to help me in creating resource bundles. I can create a Java class, Java new class, and I give it a name and bang. Persistence, JPA, REST endpoints, that's what I'm going to use, SOAP. There's plenty of commands with Maven or Gradle. I've installed the Maven plugin, but you have a Gradle plugin. You can add dependencies on your POM XML. That's what I'm going to do next. And you have a bunch of commands. Okay, so Forge, when you install it, that's what you get. Okay, the idea is to create a website. Well, there's a command called new project. So if I hit tab, it's going to tell me, hey, give me a name, please. So I'm going to call it Java 1 because, you know, I'm reusing what I've done in Java 1. If I press tab again, it's going to tell me, hey, you can give me the top level package, the type of the project, the folder, the final name. So I'm going to go, the top level package is org.java1.javaee7. Java EE7. The type is a WAR file. If I do not put WAR and if I press tab, it's going to tell me I know how to do a POM, a jar, a WAR, a bundle, a ER file. I'm telling no, I just want a WAR. And the final name, that's for Maven, you know, the final name. I'm going to give it a shorter name. I'm going to call it Java 1 2013. That was back in 2013. I should update it. Press enter and Forge interacts with me. Hey, do you want to create this project in this directory? And I go, yes. It has created a POM XML, source main web app, source main Java. So now it's time to use my IDE. So JBoss Forge has created an empty project. And you will see there's nothing special in it yet. Okay, so it's a new project. I'm going to close all that. Sorry, I've closed IntelliJ IDE. Okay, so I'm going to import this project. Oh, it's here, cool. Yes. So that's just my IDE, nothing special. Java 7, okay. Yes. So JBoss Forge has created a POM XML. What's in it? Absolutely nothing. A final name because I asked it. I said it's a WAR project, so it had a Maven WAR plugin and it's compiling it. It's a Maven project, so I have a Maven structure completely empty here with the package name because I gave it. That's it. Nothing too fancy. Well, remember that my use case is to create a web app that deals with books, talks and speakers. So I'm going to create a JPA entity called book. A book has a title, a description, an ISBN number. A speaker has a name, a bio, an email address. A talk at Java 1 has a specific room, specific time, a specific topic with a one-to-many speakers. So what do? I go to Forge and I enter some data, okay? Because as I've showed you, I have some commands here that allow me to create the persistence. I can set up the persistence, I can create entities, add fields to my entities and so on. So I could spend 10 or 15 minutes doing that here in front of you, but that's going to be boring. So I've cheated a bit. The good thing with JBoss Forge is you can create scripts. These are the commands I could type online. Persistence setup. You know, I'm saying this application is going to use JPA, and because I'm using GlassFish, it uses Eclipse Link. And I'm also going to use bin validation, so I'm setting it up. And then what do? Well, I'm going to create an entity. Remember, I need some speakers with a name, a surname, a bio, with a then, a Twitter. I'm going to add constraints. Okay, so I could write that. Okay, I could go on the JBossForge command and type all that. So I'm going to add a constraint not null on the property first name. I have another entity called talk. And look, a talk has a title, a description, a one-to-many. A one-to-many speakers, okay? A talk is made by several speakers. Again, I'm adding bin validation constraints to my model. Here, look, I'm creating an enum. A talk can be in English or in French. I'm not sure French at Java 1 will help much. I have a book here. Oh no, it's a book that can be in, yeah. A book is an entity with dates, you know, languages, a URL for the image of the book, and so on, and constraints on the book. So you can type all that, or you can cheat. Give a script to your team, and on Forge, I can go run. And I'm going to run this script, and it's going to go bang. So now if I go back to IntelliJ IDE, what happened? Well, Forge has created my book entity, and it has done all the things needed. It has created an ID. I didn't say create an ID, I just said it's an entity. He created an ID. A version, so it deals with optimistic locking for me. ISBN number, string, not null, because I told him, put a not null on ISBN. Getters, setters, equal, hash code. If I take a talk, I have a one-to-many on speakers. You never know if a one-to-many should be a list or a set. It deals with all that. And what else? Well, it has created a persistence XML. Good. Because I have been validation, it has created a validation XML. So you know, it takes care of the integration. If you do an entity and if you don't write a persistent XML file, your code doesn't work. And you can spend hours looking for what is the problem. And it has updated my POM XML. It's saying, well, you are doing JPA2 and bin validation. So again, it has created entries on my POM XML. Good. So the use case is I want to have a web interface to do CRUD operations on my model, but I also want to have REST interface. Well, let's do REST stuff first. There's a setup command. Well, let's do it. Setup. And JBossForge has updated my POM XML and has created a web XML. And I can go a little bit further. I can do REST endpoint from entity. So here, that's starting to be a bit sexier. I'm saying, can you generate endpoints, REST endpoints from my entities? Which one? Now I can give it book, speaker, talk, or I can go everything in my model. Not everything, because in my model I have an enum, you know, the language. So it's clever enough, you know, it's going to generate endpoints from my entities only. Enter, voila, as we say in French. So it has created a REST package with endpoints. It has updated my POM XML. It has created a web XML. It has done stuff. If I look at the book endpoint, what did I tell you? If we need to commit data to the database, what do we need in Java EE 6? because by the way, that's Java E6 code. I'm going to turn it to E7 later. Well, you need an EJB. You know, this is to say this class is a REST endpoint. But if you don't add the stateless, you cannot access the database. A REST endpoint cannot access the database. An EJB can. So Forge has created all that. I have a method to create a book, to delete a book, to get a book. I can do CRUD with REST on a book, on a speaker, on a talk. Forge has created that for me. Do you think this code works? Let's give it a try. So I'm talking a lot here, but as you can see, that could have been done in 2 minutes. Well, it's a REST interface, so I need a web server. So I'm gonna, because I'm on the GlassFish user group, I'm gonna use GlassFish. I'm gonna use the latest version of GlassFish actually. Here I go. Launch GlassFish. It's going to deploy my WAR. What do I have at the moment? Entities, REST endpoints, a bunch of XML. I haven't even looked at it. There's some interesting stuff here. First of all, I have no books in my database. Okay? My REST endpoint, as you can see, has a funny name here, has a funny path. REST/books. It's XML. What happened? Well, Forge has set up things for me. On the web XML, it says all the REST endpoints should be in the REST URL. I didn't do it. Maybe you didn't look carefully, but when we created the entities, JBoss Forge has created an entity. When I said I want to create a REST endpoint from that, then he said, hey, I need to add that. Yes, of course. If you have an entity, you want to access it with a REST endpoint. If you don't add this annotation, it won't work. This gives you an XML representation of an entity. Cool. So because a browser can only do get and post, I'm going to take REST client and I'm going to go get all books. So that's a get. HTTP get, empty, okay? So what I have here, empty books, is the same here. Books are empty. I have here, maybe, oh, that's a bit. This is a HTTP post. So I'm going to create a book. HTTP post 201. It has been created. So, you know, I could go back to my web app. Here, in the database, there's one book. I can get book number 1. Here it is. Instead of a get, I do a delete, HTTP delete. I send 2004. If I do a get again, then the database is empty. So I can get all the books, all the speakers, all the talks. I can do create, I can do post, put, delete, all that in a few, commands. All the code is here. Nothing is hidden. Okay. There's no magic with JBoss Forge. He just plugged several specifications. He plugged JPA, JAXB, JAXRS, EJBs, bin validation, and servlets. So with only a set of commands, it has created this web app that actually works. Okay, but you know, I need some user interface. I go back to, I'm gonna have to shut down GlassFish. I'm going back to JBoss Forge and I'm gonna scaffold. I'm saying, you know, as I said, I can generate now a web interface with AngularJS, but I'm going to create a faces JSF. So here I'm saying I'm going to scaffold a web interface using JSF. JBoss Forge has created stuff behind my back, and I'm going to do scaffold from entity, so it's the same idea with REST. Model star shebang. What has happened behind my back? Plenty of things. JBoss Forge has created JSF backing bins, and again I'm adding more and more and more technologies here. I have a stateful bin, which is a CDI bin with a conversation scope. So here is a bin, and for a book, again, that's going to allow me to persist books in the database, retrieve books, find books by ID, and on the web app it has created plenty of things. So I have a few pages to manage books, a few pages to manage speakers, and if I deploy the application again, that's the default JBoss Forge web app. Here I have books, I can find books, I can create a new book. Here I have speakers, talks. I will go a little bit more into details later, but just to see that I'm not cheating, if I go back to my REST interface and I create a book doing an HTTP post, it's in the database. Now I go here and the book is actually here. So I can click, I have everything about the book, I can edit, delete the book. So if I go back to my REST interface and go get all books, the database is empty. Again, I've been talking a lot, but I could have done that in 5 minutes. I have here about 10 specs that work together. JPA, bin validation, CDI, EJBs, JTA, REST, and so on. But actually, this is a Java EE6 application. JBoss Forge is not EE7 ready. And do you know why? It's EE6. I'm going to show you some things. On the POM XML, I have a dependency on the Java EE6 API. But actually, that's just telling me I can compile my code with Java EE6 API. But at the runtime, you know, if I deploy that on GlassFish 4, GlassFish 4 does everything. J2E 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, Java EE 5, 6, and 7. How does GlassFish know that this is a Java EE6 app? Because it's just a WAR file, a completely empty WAR file. Well, the way it knows is my descriptor, my web XML is saying I'm using version 3.0 of Servlet. My bin XML is saying I'm using CDI 1.1. My faces config is saying I'm using JSF 2.0. That's how GlassFish knows it's a Java E6 app and not a Java E7 app. So now I'm going to do a bit of cheating here. I have another JBoss Forge script that will get rid of all the dependencies, JPA, validation, blah, blah, blah. And we'll put the JPA, the Java E7 API. So I'm going to run this script. So it's going to clean my POM XML. As you can see, my POM XML is full of dependencies. JPA2, validation, servlet, JAX-RS, transaction. I'm going to rid of all that. I don't need it. So I go to the root of my project and I run the POM script. Voila, a bit of cleaning. I'm even going to get rid of that. I don't need it. So here my project just depends on the Java E7 API. But as I told you, this is not enough. So I've cheated a bit. I've created a script that's going to change all my namespaces. So now my web XML is a 3.1. Oh, sorry. Namespace didn't work. Oh, yeah, 1.1. Faces config 2.2. Persistence 2.1. Validation 1.1. So now I've updated all my namespaces. That's how GlassFish knows at runtime it's an EE7 app. EE7 stuff now. Again, I've cheated a bit to save some time, but I'm going to add data to my database. So here I have a SQL script that's going to insert books in my database, speakers and talks. This script is called insert.xml. No, sorry, insert.sql. On my persistence file, persistence XML, I'm going to clean it a bit. The data source, I told you that in Java E7 I don't need it. It will use the default one. So I'm getting rid of that. Here is saying drop and create the database, but that's a property that it's related to Eclipse Link. This doesn't work with Hibernate. Well, in E7 we've created standard properties. So here I'm saying drop, when you deploy this application, drop and create the database, and even write the DDL scripts, the create and drop scripts. So I'll have the DDL, but what's important here is I'm going to load the insert SQL script. At deployment time, it's going to add data to my database. What else can I do in EE7? Well, this is a REST endpoint. It deals with my database, so it needs to be stateless. It needs to be an EJB. Not in EE7 anymore. I can do transactional. So I'm gonna change all the endpoints, add transactional. So this is a bit more EE7. For those of you who know JSF, JSF allows me to do HTTP GETs, but in JSF 2.0 it was a bit of a hack. So this F event, so that's for those of you who know the technology, but I can replace it with a view action. So I'm going to replace that in all the files. So every JSF page, I can pass it a parameter and it will do a HTTP GET. For those of you who know this technology, the HTTP GET arrived in 2009 in JSF, which is a bit of a shame for web. a web technology. I'm gonna add a bit of JRebel to help me in the future to go a little bit faster, and I'm gonna deploy this web app with JRebel. And we're gonna, now that we have data in the database, have a look at it. Okay. Books, here they are. So if I look for a title called Java and search, well, they all have Java in it. If I do look, I only have one. And if the author here, I do Josh, it will find it. But if I do Bill, it won't. So this uses query by example, which is handy. I can create a new book, I can cancel, come back, search, edit. Here I have my enum. If you look at the talks, if I look at this talk here, I update it. It's a one-to-many. I can have many speakers. Well, this is how Forge by default creates a one-to-many. I add many speakers and go save, and it works. And if I view a talk with speakers, I can click on the speaker, here I am, edit the speaker, change it, it will update it, and so on. The little red stars here, it's because I put not now. So it, you know, JBoss Forge has created all. I don't know about you, but I do a lot of applications like that. JBoss Forge deals with the many-to-many, which is always a bit complicated. What happens when you have many-to-many, when you are creating, let's say, a talk, and you need to create a new speaker? You know, so you haven't finishing creating your talk, but you need to create a speaker first, come back and attach it to the talk. That's things that you don't do with Twitter or Facebook, but that's things that I do on my day-to-day life, and it's difficult. You know, you need to merge data. The conversation starts at one point and finishes at another one. It can be quite tricky. If you have entities that need to be created by, you know, adding lists, etc., it can become tricky. It works out of the box. Let's just add, you know, let's try to make it a bit more beautiful. You know, if I have a book, there's a publication date, and that's just a string. Wouldn't it be nice if I had a calendar? You know, a sexy one. I can go from one month to another one and do sexy stuff. Do you know how to do it?
Prime faces.
Sorry?
Prime faces.
Yes! Either you do it because you are clever with CSS and with JavaScript, which I'm not, or you go to the roots of JSF. JSF is a technology that came out in 2003, but it was, you know, it started to germ in the people's brain in 2000. In 2000, for those of you who were doing Java like me, we were all doing applets and AWT, and we will be rich by doing applets. JSF was created with that in mind. It's component based. Someone does a component and I put it in my page, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I don't know how to do a calendar, so I go to other peoples who know how to do nice stuff. There's actually prime faces, rich faces, ass faces. Those guys are really clever. They know how to do that, a carousel, you know, something like that. And you click and you see something happening, you know. Or they can do mind map, you know. That's amazing. I didn't know you're able to do stuff like that with CSS and JavaScript. Oh yeah, but I wanted to have a calendar. Here it is. A calendar. You click on it and wow, isn't that great? Isn't that complex? I go back to my web application and I want to have the creation, the publication date in my book to be a bit more sexy than that. I go to my web page, book. The publication date here is just an input text. No, sorry, it's here. It's an input text. For those of you who know JSF, an input text is a component. I'm just going to use another component. So what I do is I know the calendar is called calendar. That's all. So if I go back to my page, I edit the book, I have a calendar. That's one of the beauty of JSF. People like me who don't know how to do HTML pages, you know. But let's do something a bit sexier. Isn't that table boring, you know? Isn't that 2013? Now we should do sexy things. I have the internet, so it's going to work because, see, on the books I have the URL, the image of the book. So I'm going to do something sexier. I'm going to go to the search here, to the, you know, I have a data table. That's how I print a boring table. So let's get rid of it. So if I go back to my page, I don't have a table anymore. And let's, so I've cheated a bit. Let's add some code. I'm using a component called a carousel. And I'm just taking all the books. This is a book. I have the ID of the book. And I'm going to put the image, the URL of the book. So I just got rid of the data table, and instead of using the data table component, I just used a nicer one. Oops. Yep. Isn't that nicer? And it works, you know, if I click on it, it works. So that's one good thing I like with JSF. What about the talks? You know, wouldn't that be nice to have the video of the talk? God, what do I need to do? I need to upload a video and watch it online. How can I do that? Well, I go to the backing bean, the talk bean. And again, I'm going to cheat a little bit. And I'm saying, on this bean, I need to upload a video. How do you do it with Java EE 7? It was it was impossible to do with Java EE 6. You had to rely on external frameworks. Now, JSF uses the servlet part. So this is an API. It's in the servlet package. And a part is a binary file, okay? And here I have a method that takes this part, gets the stream. Remember, it's a video. So it gets an input stream, and it's going to copy, so I upload a video, and it's going to copy it in GlassFish. You know, in the GlassFish directory. I could put that on a SAN network, blob in a database. I'm doing it the cheap way. I'm copying to GlassFish. So this is just one attribute called apart, uploaded video, and one method called upload the video. So it grabs the video and stores it on my hard drive. That's all. Then I go to the web page, and when I create a talk, I want to upload the video. So I go here. Oh, let me compile the class. So JRebel deploys it. And here, on the page to upload a video, it's really easy. The JSF has this new component called input file. And the specification tells me, because it's a part, I have to have a form with a multi-part. I need to tell servlet this is a binary file. And I'm gonna here I just had 2 lines of code. You're using the video tab. This is just pure HTML5. I'm just saying watch the video that it's there. So I'm uploading a video, storing it into GlassFish, and then saying watch the video. So, oh, no, sorry. No video, so I need to upload one video. Actually, I have a few movies from Java 1. Upload. JRebel hasn't worked. I don't know why. Sorry, I'm redeploying the application because I've changed my bean and compiled the class, and I don't know why. So sorry, I have to redeploy the app. Well, that's one annoying thing with Java EE and all the Java web stuff is we still need to package them in a WAR file. Edit, I take a video, upload it, yes, and I can watch it. And that's it. I talked a lot, but I could have done that really, really quickly.